Hi friends, this is Geography Girl Jamie with Around the World in Homeschool Days. And today I want to share with you all of our books for Romania. So first I'm going to share with you two books that are very loosely related to Romania, not really giving you information about Romania per se. And then I'm going to show you my top book recommendations. And then I will show you the other three that we read because the book stack just isn't that big for this country study. So firstly, Harry Potter. Did you catch that Ron's sibling is working in Romania with dragons? I certainly heard that in the movie if I missed it when I was reading the book. And then when Hagrid has, the thing that hatches out of the egg, I don't want to give away the plot, it has to go to Romania, which disappoints him greatly. Another one is Framed. I checked this out because my kids really liked the other book by James Ponti called City Spies. And in this one, a person who is a member of the Romanian mafia is one of the main suspects as the person in this art theft mystery. So as my kids were reading it, they said, "Mom, did you do that on purpose?" And I said, "No, I had no idea it was going to mention Romania." It even mentions the Czech Republic too, which was a very recent study of ours. So that was just really fun. Two fun mentions. Let's see, so these are my top recommended ones. Here is the one for preschool and kindergarten, the Infident Rooster. This is actually the same story as a Hungarian folktale. So we read two versions of this when we studied Hungary, and it was also in the chapter book by Kate Soretti, The Good Master. But here, I just feel like there are more Romanian elements added to it and the Romanian landscape with the Transylvanian mountains. So lots of fun. I also like to talk to the kids about how folktales are going to transcend borders because they probably existed before those borders were put there. The Christmas Drum is great for elementary school kids. It talks about a Romanian tradition. So first it's introduced right here each year on Christmas Eve, which is called the Colindat. They play a drum called the duba. For weeks before, the musicians go to the home of the villager with the largest house and they rehearse for the Colindat, for this procession on Christmas Eve. So this little boy needs to take his father's place and play this little drum this particular Christmas. His father is just away on a journey and returns at the end. And he musters up all his courage and bravery and practices with the men and is successful. So that's a really sweet story about a Romanian tradition. Now, for elementary schoolers and perhaps even middle schoolers, this is a great chapter book, The Story That Cannot Be Told. So this was published recently, and this takes place in Romania during the Cold War. So Romania is under communist rule, and it takes place right around the end of the communist rule because at the end of the book it mentions the uprisings in 1989 and how the government is on the verge of being overthrown. The author had many Romanian friends who told stories of their childhood living under communist rule and also a lot of folk tales and myths from Romania's culture. So the author put them all into this story and does a fantastic job. She weaves a lot of stories within the main story. So you can see there are a few pages with this grayish edge, and that's because the background looks like this. So this is a princess story, a princess who shares the same name as the protagonist, and that just goes throughout, and it kind of mirrors what's going on in her story as she is working up a lot of courage to stand up for what is right as the communists are taking over her grandparents' little village. I would recommend if you have a sensitive child or maybe a younger elementary student, I would recommend skipping this chapter. I had my kids skip it. They're at the end of third grade, and this was just a flashback memory, so it doesn't affect the overall story, but it's the grandfather's experience fighting in World War II, and it is kind of too much information for a sensitive child. And as I was reading it, I was feeling, oh my goodness, this is just so heavy. it's really heavy for a child. So I had the kids skip it when they read it. I read this either in middle or high school, and this is a powerful, powerful book if you have not read it. So I would recommend it for middle schoolers or high schoolers. Now, this person, Elie Wiesel, is writing about his own experience. He grew up in Romania, but then he is taken to Auschwitz and then Buchenwald during World War II. So this might go better with a study of World War II or a study of Poland, but because the author is from Romania, I am including it in the Romanian study, probably in the Poland one as well. But this is just a really powerful book. I recommend that all middle and high schoolers read this at some point. All right, so these books were just the extras, not my top recommendations. Castle Dracula. Dracula was written by an Irish author, and he based it on the life of this Romanian prince named Prince Vlad. So if you have someone who is really interested in Dracula and you want to introduce the origin story, here it is. For my third graders, this would have been too graphic. So I read this whole thing and I did not hand the book to them, but it's very interesting. I like this castle series, Castles, Palaces, and Tombs. We read a book about Neuschwanstein Castle when we studied Germany in this same series. The Seven Simons, this it says it's a Romanian folktale, even though it doesn't mention Romania at all. But the font is really big. It's great for early readers. And then Noah's Cats and the Devil's Fire. This is a Romanian folktale, and this is about how the devil tries to enter various animals to get onto Noah's Ark in order to sink the ark and to thwart God's plan. Of course, this is not in the Bible. I thought the pictures were very well done. And after I read this to the kids, I said, can you think of another name or title for this book? And they said maybe How the Cat Got Glowing Eyes. And I think that was pretty accurate. Of course, I love Romania, Enchantment of the World. I always recommend these if your library has it. I read this whole thing in preparation to go meet our friends who are from Romania. And I learned a ton. I usually will have my kids in chapters 4 and 5. 4 is about history and 5 is about the politics and government structure. I'll just have them read the captions and sidebars in those segments because sometimes the words are just a little bit too much for elementary school, like 3rd or 4th grade. But the rest of the chapters are very interesting about the culture, about religion, about famous people, and they usually include a recipe in the back that sometimes my kids want to try. So that is Enchantment of the World. That's all I have for you today about Romania. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.